I can imagine how I think your cousin, you said your cousin or something, going to be if you didn't win a Cooper Cup. So, yeah. I'm ready when you are.
All right. We go on 3. 1, 2, 3. Thank you for joining the ESBC Podcast Network for our Faith and Family Football Podcast. And today we have a phenomenal guest with us, a guy who is very diverse. He started on the West Coast. Now he's dominated the East Coast. NFL player. He played for the greatest, one of the greatest college football coaches of all time, Joe Paterno, and he's going to discuss with us his success and his career. John Bronson, how are you doing? Thank you for joining us.
I'm good. And thank you for having me.
Man, so 80% of football players end up broke, and you have a successful business that we'll get to at the end. Mm-hmm. But looking through your career, two things stand out, right? The first is going to be that you were one of the top recruited classes, right, in the country that year. You guys were ranked number 2, and you were a defensive end, but also played tight end, right? So what that says to me, that you're at a school that recruits well, right? You had too much athletic talent, right, to keep you off the field.
Well, that's one way to look at it. And then the other way to look at it also is that, hey, sometimes you just go in as an athletic. That's actually a position that they start to use.
Right.
And, me being a bigger guy as a defensive end and tight end, I guess you would call me a big athletic, or so to speak. But, it's just about being flexible and being able to be multifaceted. And for me, I knew that I had to do a little bit more to be able to get be awarded some of the same opportunities as some of the other guys who were just more specialists in one particular area. So, yeah, if it was tight end, I was there. If it was defensive end, heck, if I had to go out there and kick, I would have done it. So
right, and that shows a lot of mental toughness. We had a great interview, and I encourage everybody to listen to it, and the inspirational story of Corey Jackson.
Yeah,
and I talked about the mental strength, right? Where he's like a basketball player at JC in Texas. He gets to Nevada, and as a basketball player, he ends up in the NFL because he's such a great athlete. And it seems like you had that similar trajectory.
Yeah, my year, 2000, coming out, going into Penn State, there was 2 parade All-Americans. It was 22 guys total, 2 parades, 18 All-Americans, and then 2 others that just weren't anything, right? Maybe All-State. So I was one of just the All-State guys. I didn't make All-American and parade All-Americans.
Wow.
By the time we graduated, I believe it was, some of the neighborhood of, I graduated with just one other guy that I came in that class with. So I was thinking
what was your star? Were you like a 3-star, 4-star?
Yeah, I was like a 3, with 3 as a change or whatever. And you got to keep in mind that year, the year before, they had Penn State was stacked. So, Courtney Brown, Larry at DN, you had at linebacker, you had LeVar Arrington.
Wow.
You had Brad Scioli on the other side. Guys like Jessica Pink was just there. Who else am I missing? It was a stacked defense, but the D-line, the front 7, is even more crazy. So now trying to be able to fill those shoes the next year or the years after, definitely, was a challenge. But,
And one thing you mentioned, something you mentioned that our mothers tell us, and we don't execute. Shame on us, but it's deleting the bad people around and being around such great people. So one question I like to ask, how was it playing for one of the greatest college football coaches of all time, Joe Paterno, However, usually at a program that big, right? You have more of a relationship with the defensive coordinator, which you had one of the greatest defensive coordinators of all time, guy who always gets a job, at Tom Bradley. And who was your position coach? You have two because you play both sides of the ball. That's crazy.
Yeah, well, tight end.
You don't understand how crazy that is. That you're at a major top-tier Power 5 school, man, and you were playing on both sides of the ball.
I was very fortunate to have a lot of great, obviously, there's Joe Paterno, and I'll get to him in a minute, but also a lot of great position coach. I actually spent a lot of time with Larry Johnson, who is now currently the defensive, I believe, coordinator and also defensive end coach at Ohio State. So that should show you way back when, and now
he's making $1 million a year to coach defense.
Well, I mean, he should. He's literally, in my opinion, the greatest coach, period, that I've ever been around. And that's
you've been around a lot of great coaches. We're talking
coach, period.
Yeah, wow.
And there's a few reasons why. Number one, he really knows how to kind of motivate you and bring more out of you than you can think you can ever do. And I've seen him do that with players over and over and over again. And, you go back, I remember when I was like a freshman and, coming out, a freshman at Penn State, myself along with my roommate, who was also, we played the same position, Jeremiah Davis. We stuck a lot around a lot of the older guys who were able to kind of help mentor us, guys like Michael Haynes, which was he ended up going first round in 2002 to the Bears.
Yeah, he was legacy. I think his dad played in the league too.
No, not that Michael. No, not that Michael Haynes. So, but I get what you're saying. Yeah, I can see how you get that mixed up. And guys like Jimmy Kennedy, Anthony Adams. So we had these guys in the room that were world class already. So we had a lot of good players ahead of us, 2 or 3 years ahead of us, that we can kind of mimic to be able to be mentored from, which is great. And then you have a coach like Coach Larry Johnson, who's like one of the greatest, motivational coaches, but just very tactical and technical with how you do things. And then you keep scaling the ladder, like you said, Tom Bradley, a great defensive coordinator, and then there's Joe Paterno as well. Now, obviously Joe Paterno is the face of Penn State, and and he's a driver in itself. It's the great thing about Joe is that he would tell you right or wrong exactly what he feels. So, and he always was, academics was important. It was so important. I never forget. We used to have these class checkers that would show up.
Oh, wow.
At your class to make sure you got to class, and he must have sent a class checker there, and I wasn't in class, and so, man, I tell you what, I never heard the end from it from him. I got green by why I wasn't in class, and I had to do this what they call awareness training and all this stuff, but that was Joe. It wasn't just about football; it was also about being a better man, take care of your academics, and so a lot of those same characteristics that I learned way back when still carry out to this day, allow, me to do some of the things that I've been able to do.
Right. So it's true, because it's great talking to you as a fan, because you dispel a lot of myths, right? And things, that they say that might not be true. Some things are true. So it is true that Joe Paterno had a lot of discipline, right? And he would say in public the things that they put on you that you would hate him while at school, but now as an adult, you're like, oh, I'm glad I went through that type of, tough discipline.
Absolutely. I mean, when you're younger, you don't get it and why you have to do certain things. I mean, look, we had to be, it was a lot military style, I would say. And I grew up as a military brat, so I think I'm qualified to use that. Where things are very strict. If you're 10 minutes early, you're on time. If you're on time, you're late.
Right.
You know what I mean? And you're like, well, it doesn't make any sense, but that was the rule, right?
Right.
To be clean shaven, just like I am now. We couldn't have facial. I mean, actually, this wouldn't even be applied. Like, I would have to go shave, right? And so it'd be clean shaven. I mean, if you notice, like, we had no names on our jerseys. He believed in being a team. We had black shoes. You couldn't do the spats and all that. And heck, even back then, as a freshman, you couldn't even talk to the media. The whole purpose was that it was discipline. Being a team, there's not any person kind of like above another. And when you kind of focused in on those things, you really were able to kind of feed off each other as teammates and understand each other a lot more.
Interesting.
I say this, even in today's time frame, sports and the people that I associate with, we did not care about what you were, what you did, what the scenario, race, creed, color, or whatever. We all had one goal. That was to win football game, period, right?
Right.
Joe helped to make that make more sense with all these different disciplinary actions that, that we had as growing up as student athletes.
Right. And as a student of college football, got to ask you this question.
Yeah.
The way the staff was, Joe Paterno is such a legendary guy. It's so detailed, right? So the way the staff's put together, did he have it where he had an exit, right? I'm guessing based on what you said. You have Tom Bradley as your X and O guy, and then maybe in that time in his career, Larry Johnson you're saying he's both, but he was more of a recruiting guy. So you would have guys who are recruiters, and then you have guys on the staff, like a Tom Bradley, right? A genius defensive guy who's a hardcore X's and O's guy.
So, I think...
Or did Joe have both? Every coach, because I know Mark Few at Gonzaga, in your part of the world, his assistant coaches, he demands that they both be a top-notch recruiter and a top-notch X and O guy.
And I think that was pretty consistent at Penn State. I can tell you, like my recruiting coordinator was Jay Paterno, which Joe's son.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, so he was at the time a tight ends coach. So this is
right.
And so I actually got recruited for a tight end, then moved to D. So
got so much talent, we cannot keep John Bronson. I can see the meeting now. John Bronson has too much talent. We cannot keep this man off the field.
And so I think every coach had a little bit of recruiting that they were responsible for in different parts of the world.
Right.
I was ecstatic that, Jay and Joe came 3,000 miles away to be able to recruit.
Joe came to your house. Joe Paterno came to your house.
Man, yeah, it's like, it's a great thing. And but what was also
how can you say
cool,
no to Joe Paterno, right? What other schools were recruiting you at that time? That's interesting.
So basically, mostly of the Pac-10 minus USC. Don't know why.
Because let's see who was coaching USC during that time.
Yeah, I think it was Pete Carroll actually, which is funny because he ended up in Seattle, just shortly after. But and then a lot of schools started to come on, especially back east when Penn State gave an offer. It's like, what do they call it? Monkey see, monkey do. So like, now so Penn State is now Syracuse wants to offer, and like NC State, and so. But I didn't have like a ton. I wasn't like this 200 offer guy. Maybe.
But my point is that probably no other head coach came to your house other than Joe, right?
Yeah, except for one, Mike Doba. Not no other Joe Paterno head coach. Put it that way. Yeah, no.
Right on that level, right? Pete Carroll didn't come to your house.
Pete Carroll didn't come. It was a couple of
Donahue at UCLA because you said all the time. Right?
No. We had a guy named Doba. He was Washington State. He came, but
he's a good defensive guy. Doba, I remember.
Yeah, Bill Doba. Yeah, he was a good guy. I almost went to Washington State, which is really cool. That was my second choice.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
I almost went. Yeah, and let me say this too. Like, so there was a guy.
I met a good-looking girl from Poland in Washington.
Yeah.
It would have been bad.
I got a lot of friends that went to Washington State, and so they'll be happy to hear that. And being from Washington, it's either Washington or Washington State, right? So I got a ton of friends at Washington State in sports and fraternity up there. So it's been fun. But let me say this too: there was a guy also that went to Penn State named Ryan Scott. We both actually went to Penn State at the same time, and let me show you how we got there. We got there because we went to a Penn State camp for them to notice us, then turn back to offer. So that's how we got two people from Seattle or Kent ended up in Pennsylvania at Penn State.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So journey. It's a journey. It was a journey.
All right. So were you drafted or were you an undrafted free agent?
So I was undrafted free agent.
So that shows a lot of, I think, a common theme between you and Corey Jackson is mental strength, right? Because you start at Penn State as a tight end, you switch positions, you have the mental strength, right, to have a good attitude and get on there. And notice that they wanted you on the field, to be a first teamer, to even get on the field for a Division I team is phenomenal. But you're upper Power 5, right? So now you're an undrafted free agent, right? And instead of being upset about it, you had the mental strength, right, to go through that process. And how was that process? How many teams gave you offers?
Yeah, man, it was so fast when I'm here, but it was like, and I don't know how if I should be saying this, but I never forget it was end of the 6th round where things started to pick up, right? And I thought I still was going to be drafted at first, but then my agents thought it would be better if I don't get drafted, given my circumstance. And that made sense, but, there's a whole little cool factor in it. Money-wise, it's like, $3 difference, right?
Right.
So,
but as an undrafted free agent, you get a choice, maybe.
You get a choice, yeah. And I'm actually so happy I didn't, because I don't know if I would have gotten drafted, I would end up in Dallas behind Jason Witten or something like that.
Right.
It was different scenarios. So
they were looking at it as a tight end, right, in the NFL.
Solely as a tight end. But I ended up trying out for both at defensive end and tight end, mostly tight end. So I ended up choosing Arizona simply on circumstance. A guy named Freddie. Not Mitchell, but like Freddie Smith. I forgot his name. He was a big time tight end. He was at Arizona for like 10 years. He was on the way out. He just retired. And then there was only a couple of guys that came in the year before who were also undrafted free agents last year. So, you look at the competition and you go, okay, well, if I'm going to compete somewhere, I'd rather go somewhere where there's some other new faces and I'm willing to roll the dice there and compete versus go somewhere where the Jason Witten or Tony Gonzalez or somewhere, and there's already a spot gone. There's no way I'm going to, outbeat those guys. So it worked out that
you were a blocking tight end, right? I was more of a block.
Yeah. I was more of a blocking tight end, but of course, I tried to get my hands on a ball or two. But then another guy named Adam Bergen, who's also good friends with, who also was a rookie free agent that year. So we both made the team as undrafted rookie free agent tight ends out of Pennsylvania. Wow. He went to where the heck did he go? Lehigh, and I went to Penn State. So yeah, you look back at these things and you go, man, it's been a journey. So yeah.
Absolutely, man. And the theme is mental toughness,
absolutely. And belief. You
gotta have belief. Society, people at the slightest thing that doesn't go their way. We were talking about yesterday, boom, they quit or they get upset. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
And you're a great story of just keeping on, and really making something phenomenal that you gotta. Not only did you get an NFL career, but you were around a guy like Dennis Green, right? And Dennis Green to me, and you said there's a backstory to that. I always remember he was like, "We had Chicago, and we left them off the hook."
We let them out there, like, yeah. We if you want to crown them, crown them. We thought we knew we
we knew who
we
they
knew
were.
who we thought they were. We
Right.
knew who we thought they were,
and we left them off the hook. We knew who they were.
Yeah. So I'll give you the backstory of that. So leading up to that week, I was there during those years during that year, and leading up to that week, we had prepared for Chicago, precisely. And it was actually a very simple game plan. They had a phenomenal defense. Offense was, not very, very great. Stop them on defense. Stop them on offense. We play solid defense. Don't give up any turnovers. We win the game. Simple, right?
Right.
So the problem is that we kept shooting our own self in the foot.
Oh yeah, I watched that game. We'll cue it up because I have it on YouTube, and we'll cue it when you're ready. Because I remember watching that game, and truth be known, I put money on you guys.
And that 9 times out of 10 would have been a good bet. But
you guys, because it's points, you guys covered the spread, so it was one of those where the other team was supposed to beat you guys by a lot, and I knew with the talent you guys had, right? The talent you had.
Yeah,
right?
we were good that we. I mean, obviously Kurt. We had Kurt and Matt. I think Matt started that week though for some reason.
Right.
Edgerrin James was running back. Then we had Larry. We had Anquan,
right.
Brian Johnson. It was we had a great team, and we
it was really the core that one thing had to take to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, we exactly, and we just kept giving up the ball. And then on the other side, let's keep it real. They had Devin Hester. Anytime you kick at Devin Hester,
right?
That's the wrap. I think he had like 2 scores that game,
right?
On punt and the kickoff return, and then we fumbled the ball. Urlacher had another. It was just like. Or maybe it was I don't think it was Urlacher, but maybe it was Urlacher. Somebody, I forgot who was on defense. Or Lance Briggs, one of the two had another fumble for a touchdown. Yeah, it was just not a very smart game by us, and like I said, all we had to do was
coordinator, right? Because why are you kicking the Devin Hester, right? That's got to stick with you. And that's one of those games, right? Because that game was really more than a decade ago. But as a player, that sticks in your head.
It still stings. It really stings. It really stings simply because that's not a game we should have lost. And yeah, it was a little conservative. We're playing a little conservative. Probably should have aired it out a little bit more, to Larry, Anquan, and such. But yeah, that game still stings. I'm not gonna lie.
the late great Dennis Green.
Yeah. He's Denny Green was also a great coach. I enjoyed playing for him. Obviously he gave me an opportunity in the league, so I'm forever thankful for that. And he was a guy's coach. He, again, straight shooter, but he can also. I never did, but you felt like you could have a beer with him, right? Like,
well, this is the thing too. I was on a place in Honeymoon Island, Florida. We're sitting on a boat, and you go from kind of like the mainland to this island, secluded island, and they give you a tour. And I'm sitting down, and I'm like, man, that's Dennis Green. And I'm one of those people that just leaves people alone or whatever.
Yeah.
And I sat next to him, and, I was minding my own business, but he started engaging me. And then I asked him a question about football. Just because of my curiosity, right? And he's like, you're right about that. You never kill the goose that lays the golden eggs.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And it was funny. He was an avid fisher. He loved to fish.
Yeah.
He loved to fish.
Yeah. So he was scouting that area to go fishing.
Yeah, for sure. He had to probably.
Coach to the core, scouting the area before he goes out there.
I swear we got out of practice early just so he can go fishing. I'm sure he had some fishing time somewhere. Like, he loved to fish. That was his thing. Yeah. So Denny Green was a great coach. Brought along a great staff. I had a great tight ends coach, Carl Hargrave, who was with Denny Green for forever, 15, 20 years. They were all in Minnesota and together. And so, yeah, it was a fun team playing with the Cardinals. We just couldn't, get over the hump, and win a few more games. But a lot of fun guys, a lot of great guys. Larry Fitzgerald to start. I mean, a lot of people always ask, does Larry as a person match Larry as a player? And everything you see, in my opinion, is everything you see. Like, I mean, he's very genuine, very, just a class act, both on and off the field. And that's how he was when we were in the locker room. I mean, he was just, he was a good guy. He was a good guy to be around, and especially as a younger guy, football wise. I say that because I'm actually older than him, I think. But as a football wise, he was very open, to being able to, to share resource or what he if it can help you and the team. So I really enjoy it, guys like that. Guys also like Anquan, stand-up guy. Brian Johnson, he was a Penn Stater. So we had that relationship, and, he was All-American and first rounder from Penn State. And then we also played together in Arizona. So, these type of guys, especially that you play in college with too, also help because you have this combined that from college. And on top of that, they, Brian was already in Arizona a year or two before. So, I'm just getting to the Arizona, so I need to know what to do. Like where do I go? Where do I live? Like, and so all these things that you have guys like Brian Johnson who can like help and assist. So a lot of fun.
Yeah, we'll play it, and the live stream will see it because I guess what happened was that YouTube has a code where they block, but there's always a way. See, that's the thing when you're an entrepreneur, you're out in business. You always find a way around.
There you go.
No, we just the Bears are what we thought they were. What we thought they were. We played them in preseason. Who the hell takes a third game in a preseason like it's boom? We played them in the third game. Everybody played 3 quarters. The Bears are who we thought they were. That's why we took the damn field. Now, if you want to crown them, then crown their ass. But they are who we thought they were, and we let them off the hook.
And everything.
And I think it's nuance, right? So let me ask you, because you're the expert, right? And I'm just a fan, right? Fans think they know this and that, but you're actually the man who was on the field with this, right? So I'm listening to that, and I'm like, and you can curse on here if you want, there's like Joe Rogan show. He's like saying, the Bears aren't shit. And, right, that's one, right? And the second part of the question is that this is true, right? Because you played at Penn State and you played with a legendary Dennis Green, won Super Bowls with
Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah, Minnesota Vikings. Oh, he had that great team, 15-1, that should have been to the Super Bowl. Got cheated. We can talk about that. The Randall Cunningham. That was a great Minnesota team. Chris Dolman. Yeah, that was a great team. But with Bill Walsh, he won Super Bowl as the offensive coordinator. And he in Stanford, with no talent at Stanford, he got that program to come up. And he was a great entrepreneur. People don't know that he started a shipping with trucks, right? He had a trucking company.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
A phenomenal trucking company. So guy was brilliant, right?
Yeah.
Do coaches, right? Let's say Ohio State blew you out the year before. Are you guys in spring practice, right, focusing on what Ohio State does so when you play them next year, you guys are ready? So I'm thinking as the protocol in the NFL is you take the starters out at halftime or whatever, and then Chicago played the whole game, and that's stuck in Dennis Green's mind. So, yeah, you guys ready for Chicago.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, as he said in there, we played in the third game of the preseason, and it is what it is. It's preseason, third game, right? I mean, so going into that week, as I was saying earlier, like we have prepared for them. Excuse me, the end of that week, we had prepared for them. I mean, I don't want to say
but did
that.
He have, like, I wouldn't say high place, but didn't he have like a special package for Chicago as a result, maybe of his anger or what they did during the preseason that he brings out?
Yeah, I can't confirm or deny if like he just had an out for them, but it definitely was a circle on the calendar. You know what I'm saying? Like, but you also got to think of the time frame too. Then Chicago was really hot that year. I mean, they were, I think they were undefeated at the time they came. They may have lost one game. So
they were supposed to be Super Bowl favorites, and
they were. And then I think then they ended up, they'd still end up getting to the Super Bowl that year, right?
Smith, right?
Yeah. And they ended up getting to the Super Bowl that year. They didn't win it.
Yeah, it was Grossman, and Grossman got a lot of flack for having such a great defense, and
Exactly. So we felt that we perfectly matched what we were about to get served, right? Mm-hmm. Like it was good defense against, we felt, a good offense in Arizona. Let's go, right?
Right.
The problem is that we just could not hold on to the ball and get the ball into our offensive hands long enough to be able to sustain long enough drives to score, right? That was really it. And so it's so frustrating, obviously in that moment, and even 14 years later, it's still frustrating.
Like it was yesterday.
Yeah, where you're like, wow, like we knew Rex, he wasn't going to throw the ball. We had to worry about him, so he was like a non-factor in terms of how the process was. That's in terms of how the process was. We knew that they could run the ball. That could be a factor. But bottom line is, we stopped to pass. They have no pass game. We start to run game. We play good offense. We win the game. We score more points and we win the game. Right. That's what the strategy was. It sounds so simple,
right?
But it was we did not execute it. That's the problem. That's where
the first thing that came out of your mouth is like, why are we punting to Dylan?
Yeah, why? Exactly. Why are we?
That's what you guys do on the sideline, right? Looking at each other. Why are we putting?
Why? Like why? Like, exactly. So when you look at all the like everything is out, you can understand and feel his frustration, especially after the game, on why he felt. He said we let him off the hook, and you want to crown him. Like that's how we all felt. It's like we're not. Like, we didn't think they were as good as it portrayed, right?
Right, exactly.
And that's what he said. Like, I mean,
right.
We when he's saying we are who they thought they were, is saying that we knew exactly who Chicago Bears was. Solid defense, no offense. Let's we run, play our game, we win the game. That's what it was. We didn't do any of that. And on top of that, we gave the ball over 4 or 5 times. And so it's no way you can win a game that way. So, yeah. But that was a frustrating game. And, man, that week after was like, you did not want to come in the next Monday morning. Like seriously. It was just like air was out of the room, so to speak. Like you just felt it was just like, how did we get here? So, but it all in all, it was fun.
We had Hall of Famers, right? So we
Kurt Warner,
Faith Family Football. When you take your Faith Family Football, that's Kurt Warner, right? A man of faith. Is he really a man, or is it an act?
No. He 100% is. 100% is. Really, I used to make a joke, and because we had Kurt and we also had Matt. So we had, just Matt back then. Matt was Matt Leinart. Matt was.
Oh yeah, that's right. Heisman Trophy.
Big man at Kansas USC, and then but you put it in, so right next to so then you had the State in the center.
Yeah, exactly. You had the State in the center because Matt Leinart was like his thing was he was like Brady because he impregnated like 2 girls at the same time at USC before he came. The volleyball player who sued him. This is all public knowledge, right? And some other girl. And now he's married to girl number 5, but he's a straight up guy now on Fox, and he's totally changed the way he says it, right? I made a lot of mistakes in my youth, and now I'm a totally different guy. But you played with a guy number one.
Yeah. But look, they both were.
Let me ask you this, right? Because this is another thing that fans don't know about that you can give us some insight. When they're going through that, you guys in the locker room, you as an offensive guy, tight end, are you picking sides? Are you saying, "Oh man, we want Kurt in there"?
Well, no. I mean, no. You just learn to play with both, and like literally, us like Kurt had a different ball than that.
Dennis Green is going to decide to put the best guy in there for you.
Exactly. I mean, look, like Kurt has threw a different ball than Matt.
Okay.
So you just have to know, like, if you run the 7 and Matt's in the game, it's going to come a little faster than Kurt's. But Kurt, his release is a little bit faster.
Wow.
So you know what I mean. But the ball is not that fast. The
velocity. I remember Leinart had that wind up. Yeah. So
the velocity is not
right.
The release is faster, but the velocity is not as fast. Whereas Matt, he's going to get the ball later, but it's going to be on you. It's going to be tight, right? So you just have to know the difference. But let me say this about both of them real quick, because this is important. Both had places for us, especially as a first year, second year player in the league for us. Look, I mean, back then we had good fun as well. So Matt also served his purpose. I really enjoyed the fact that we also had, some Hollywood adventure in Arizona. I mean, that was great. There'd be no other time where be able to meet some A-list celebrities if it wasn't for Matt, and the clout that he had. So, and then on the other side, he also
was smooth, right? He's a smooth cat.
He's smooth, very smooth. So both guys served their purpose, but they both were stand up. They just had different agendas, right? Her family guy, have 8-9 kids, I have 8-9 kids or whatever, that's, he's already been through a lot. Then there's Matt, he just got there. He's, we still ready to party, and there was nothing wrong with both scenarios. It was just different.
Right.
They were just different. So
awesome.
Yeah.
I would guess, right, as a football fan, that because that was early in Matt's career, that a differentiator was that Kurt, being a Hall of Fame quarterback, could read defense faster and get you guys out of plays, and he would be more aggressive in getting you guys out of play and get you guys into the right play. Or am I totally off?
Say it one more time, just the last part. I got a little twisted up.
That since Kurt Warner had been in the league for a while, that he would be more confident, more apt to get you guys out of the wrong play and into the right play. On the fly.
Absolutely. I mean, look. First, just look at his own story, right? I mean, he went from grocery bagger to MVP, Super Bowl MVP. Like, I mean, so if anybody can do that, then he can definitely being down by 15 is not a big deal, right? So it's like, okay, but the way that he approached it, and the way that the different quarterbacks approached it was all different. Like, Kurt was very just kind of matter of fact. Here's what to do. Go out there and do it. Very rah-rah, motivational, right? And then, the Matt was in the same type of scenario, but a little bit more like pep in your step. Like, let's go get him. Like, boom, 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 right? So it just was a difference in style. But,
and how was it like playing
effective
with a guy who's still playing, and it doesn't matter who the coach is, right? Larry Fitzgerald, man. And we have a receiver here. It comes on the Faith Family Football podcast. We'll have him from Houston Baptist every year. Top 10 receiving category in the FCS. And a guy like that has to model his career after the work ethic of Larry Fitzgerald.
100%, 110%. I mean, I would be, if I'm a receiver going into the league, or even if you're in the league, I am looking and picking Larry's brain as much as possible. One, on stability. I would be knowing every single thing that he did to have a 16-year career, number one, right?
Right.
Some of those years I can share a little bit. Number one, the guy was You know, he's very clean. I will say, very clean. Clean in terms of like food we eat. He wasn't a drinker.
Right.
You know, obviously a smoker. Like clean. Like I mean, it's like it was like impossible for somebody to be that clean. Everything. Yeah. Right. Obviously, we assume he's cleaning up those other places, right? So he's just a very clean, very precise person, right? He had a lot of things in order, but he was kind of kept himself too. He wasn't like very like out, like a big outgoing player. You didn't see him at parties or like nothing like that. Like Larry kind of had.
He's not like a screamer in the locker room too, right? Where you have guys.
He's not a screamer.
He's like, not a screamer. Shut up, right?
No, he's not a screamer. He's very smooth, very softer spoken guy, but still impactful.
Right.
And but you know, one other things too that I think he was good at was being able to kind of bring you along. Especially, I remember like some of the younger guys, like myself and Carla Holiday, LeRon McCoy, who's Leshon's brother. We all played together. Wow. And so he would just like take us, you know, under the wing and maybe just, you know, grab to eat or whatever. Just, you know, just shoot the crap, right? Just like talk about whatever, right? And there's no agenda. Like, I mean, it's Larry, right? We don't have to do this. We can't do nothing for him, right? There's no
absolutely.
But that was the mark of a good leader and a good person who's helping to mentor and maybe get some advice along the way of some things. Because I can give you other stories on the side. What wasn't really like that, you know, it was a lot of some of the upperclassmen were just, I call upperclassmen, veterans were just, you know, they had their own families, so they didn't have time,
right?
Or they just had their own agenda, right? They had their own thing, and that's cool.
Take a shower and they're out of the locker room, or sometimes they don't even take a shower; they're gone. Gone. You hear them next time you see them, the next practice, next day. Period. So the good part about Larry is that he was very intellectual with those things, with you as a team member. And that really helps you as a person, but also I believe it also has even some impact on his own self as well. To kind of, you know what I mean? It's like a little bit good feeling. I don't know what you call it, but because humans are social creatures, right? And with social distancing and wearing a mask and stuff like that, it's coming to the forefront. What we are, and my wife's a psychotherapist, right?
Yeah, I read that.
Right?
Yeah.
If people get it wrong, they call it antisocial behavior. It really isn't. It's a withdrawal that you're kind of getting into that's depression. So really those guys that leave or whatever have some form of depression.
Sure.
And even social anxiety.
Yeah.
That you're seeing and you're reporting, right? That in the locker room is counterproductive. Yeah,
and you're exactly right. And it's very important to have these social elements that you really don't realize, especially back then. Now maybe a little bit different with kids these days, and they got phones or whatever. So as long as they're socially in this device, a lot of people are okay. But which is funny to me. But back then, like, it was important to be socially involved with each other. Dinners, just get-togethers, barbecues, or whatever, to be connected, and that's how you also trust more of each other as teammates and et cetera. So it was a lot of fun, and those are some of the best moments that I cherish as players, almost over even the actual games. Which just may sound crazy because there's so much more integral time that you spend with each other as teammates.
Yeah, we're social creatures, man. At the end of the day. At the end of the day. And is there, before we get to Ken Whisenhunt, it's just very interesting, Ken Whisenhunt, and he's here as the offensive coordinator. No, he got fired because of his personality. He got fired as offensive coordinator here at Chargers camp, and I used to see him at Chargers camp all the time. You observe people.
Yeah.
Is there somebody else on the Cardinals that we might not notice that's kind of like yourself that was, a great guy and a great NFL guy at the time you were there with the Cardinals?
Yeah, so there's a ton of guys.
Because even if you make it to the league, I don't care, man. If you're a snapper and you snapped in one game, you make it to the league. That's the special thing because it's such a rarity to be able to accomplish.
It is. Yeah, it is. I talked about Anquan, Boldin, and Brian Johnson. Yeah. For some reason, receivers, like, they kind of had a little bit different.
Florida State.
I don't know. So those are guys. But other guys too. You know what's funny? I actually was locker mates with Edgerrin James and my second.
University of Miami.
You talk about
all about the U.
U. And he made sure you knew about the U, like for sure, like without a doubt. Like he made sure you knew about the U. But it was such an interesting time being his locker mate because it was so different than everybody else, right? I never forget, like he came in first. That's the first time we had music in the locker room. I mean, obviously right next to me, it was like a whole like entertainment system with his lockers area, right? He was the only guy I knew who had, or at least that I knew of, that had basically an assistant within the locker room. Yes, you heard me correctly. Right. An assistant within the locker room. This is Edgerrin James, right? I'm pretty sure, like, so this is when you know that you kind of, this is when you know the separation, even in the league, right? So there's a guy like me, and then there's Edgerrin James, right? And then Leonard, right? But on Wednesdays, after the game, you know how far Arizona is to Miami, right?
Right.
Edgerrin James would leave every week, or not every week. I can't say every week, but frequently,
right,
to home and come back and be back on Wednesday. Crazy, right? Now, if I come back on a Wednesday and I don't show up for work until Monday, Tuesday we had off, and come back on Wednesday just before practice, I would be cut, right?
Right now, yeah, exactly.
But Edgerrin James,
right?
It's Edgerrin James. What can you say, right?
What can you do? Yeah.
But the good thing about what's cool about Edgerrin, Joe, was that he gave you helping to show you like a other side, and he was real authentic. But he would also help you in more ways than you can count with just whatever. Like when I mean help, like in terms of like. For me, I didn't tell you. I actually got moved to fullback for a minute of my time. So I had to learn fullback on the run. So he would help me.
There you go, man. Then the mental toughness and intelligence, man. They had trust that you were smart, that you were going to pick up. And that's his role, man. Well, there's the other thing, too, I'm going to ask, right?
Yeah.
As a defensive end, as a blocking tight, I know this respect, but primarily a blocking tight end.
Yeah.
Now they switch you to fullback, right? That says to me you're smart. However,
you gotta block more.
To stick your head in the hole like that, you got a mean streak in you. Not, you're doing technique and you got a mean streak in you. As a football player.
I got a little scary, but at the same time, I really did not. I almost had to. It was like either I get scary or But I really did not want to play fullback, though.
Yeah, let me ask you this. A guy who's coaching now at Florida Atlantic, and I'm an alumnus of USF. We're in an alumni meeting, and Willie Taggart was like, man, I tell the kids, so we're recruiting him, and that this is the most fun you can have if you like hitting people.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to be able to do this on the street. You do this on the street, it's a felony, you're going to be locked up.
Certainly. Excuse me. If you like hitting people, and you like some form of violence in a safe I would say safe space, but in a space.
You're going head to head with Terrell Suggs and stuff like that, and you're not blinking.
There's no blinks. You got to go full steam, car wreck every day. That was the thing. Car wreck every play, not every day, every play.
Right.
You know what I mean? So car wreck every play, and that's crazy to me looking back. Like, wow, they literally got in a minor car wreck every play. Think about it.
That's amazing. Oh
yeah. So anyway, so good time, fun time.
Then you get Ken Lindenham, right? And I know you're in business, right? And I've been in business for a while, so I can say a lot, right? My clients know me, but people have other. But it's the only thing we'll talk about is stuff that's public, right?
Sure.
And there's with the George Floyd thing going on, publicly, some NFL players have labeled Ken Whisenhunt as a racist, and you actually played for him for a minute. And it's interesting because it's twofold, right? You have coaches who play favorites and they want to bring in their guys. I'll be interested to see what tight end they brought in. But they ended up going to the Super Bowl. I don't know if it was that year or the year after. You're with a core Denny Green guys.
Sure,
including
absolutely.
Warner, and they got to the Super Bowl. And how was that transition like? Because then the theme again, John Bronson has a lot of mental strength, man, to go through what you have and be able to adapt so quickly and intelligence. How was that process? And what are your thoughts on Ken Winston and what went down there? And how did you were able to sum up your mental toughness again to go to the next part in life where you've been phenomenally successful and really an outlier because 80% of pro athletes end up broke, right? Mm-hmm. The ones that don't sometimes are coaches or insular. So I would say only 10% or even 5% have been able to do what you do, transition successfully and have a great business.
Yeah, no, I'll start with the Kid Winston thing. At first, I will say I didn't play with him very long. As I mentioned earlier, I actually got cut, from from a lot of his tenure. So I was.
So what did he do? He just watched film and said, "Oh, okay, blah blah blah," or was it just
not
purely
that much? Okay. I mean, I was around for half a season or so, but I mean, in football terms, it's not a long time. And you got to remember, Ken, he came from Pittsburgh, and so where they had, I believe, they just came off of a Super Bowl, right? And then on top of that, so he was a hot coach. I was a coordinator, and so him coming to Arizona. Oh, and then look, when you don't win games, you move quickly. Right. So Denny Green was on the hot seat, and then he had to journey on. And so in come Winston Hunt, and it's pretty standard now. And looking back, that a lot of players that kind of bring their own package of guys.
Their own guys.
Their own guys.
Right? My guys.
Yeah, it's guys, and especially as backups, especially, right? There may be some starting guys who are already there that are going to remain, but those guys that know the system that's been around for 3 or 4 years or so, et cetera. So in theory, with me, that's how I felt. Obviously, they'll never be written there somewhere that I got cut because of one of his guys. But I felt that for me, that the people in my position that came from Pittsburgh were not as effective and as good as I was as a player. However, I just wasn't one of his guys from Pittsburgh who also knew the system. Guy that replaced
you was a guy who I could say now, just based on the evidence that you provided, wasn't half the athlete of you. Even though he was around here, he was in Eugene, Oregon. I think he only played that year. What, Tim Eustace?
Wow, you're good. You are good.
From Pittsburgh.
You're good. And look, good guy, standing guy. But in my opinion, like I said,
no way, man.
Yeah, I just don't believe. Hey, we were having a beer right now, and Tim was here. I was saying, look, man,
it's not personal, man. We're just talking business.
It's not personal. You came from Pittsburgh, and it was one of those guys, and I get it. So no qualms there on that one, but that's just the system. And I think what happens is that looking back, you kind of learn to go, okay, that's how it kind of works in
it's interesting in
corporate world, and then also the sport world, the business corporate world, and the sport corporate world. So yeah.
Right. And I teach this in management, and we put this when I talk about the business side of the fun, is that real intelligence is situational intelligence. Now, you can have a system like he had that I'm going to bring this guy, but situational intelligence will be like, oh, wait a second. Let me look at John Bronson, Penn State guy, smart guy. He's going to pick up the system fast, and he's a 10 times better athlete than Tim Eustace, right?
Sure.
And then when you look at management style of Ken Winston Hunt, the reason they didn't make that playoffs that same year was because he got out-schemed, out-coached by Mike Singletary, and they lost to San Francisco twice, and San Francisco only won 5 games that year. And this man has a whole Hall of Fame. He has a Hall of Fame quarterback, Anquan, Boldin, Edgerrin James, and stuff like that, right?
Yeah,
so
right.
You find some fault in Ken Winston Hunt's decision making, And then the next year, just to close out on Whisenhunt, even though they went to the Super Bowl, they had like a crazy run at the end where he fires Clancy Pendergrass.
Yeah.
Who's the former defensive coach. All these guys got fired this year again, right? It's amazing how these guys, when people talk about white privilege, I'll tell them Clancy Pendergrass and Ken Whisenhunt, right? They both get fired the same year, doing the same thing in the same town, no less. Pendergrass got fired as the defensive coordinator at USC, and Whisenhunt got fired as the offensive coordinator in the middle of the year because he doesn't have – and then you make more money. It's something that John Bronson has a lot. You make more money in business more than anything else with emotional intelligence, which Whisenhunt did not have. That's why got fired over there with the Cardinals. And then he got fired again. He's been fired a lot. But his most recent firing, really for personality more than anything else, and probably his flawed decision-making where he's a system guy. He stays with the system. Is he Mormon? I think he's Mormon too. So he has that rigid thinking, right, where you're going to stick to it and not have situational intelligence. Because situational intelligence ends up, when you don't have privilege like these guys in a salary and you're not an entrepreneur and you're making decisions, you have to have that situational intelligence.
And that makes perfect sense the way you broke it down. I mean, that's now I can kind of understand a little bit more of the mental thinking on the decisions that are made during that time frame. That makes a lot of sense. So
absolutely, yeah, no,
yeah. But hey, it's what it is. It is what it is, and like they say, I'm not going to cry over spilled milk. I mean, it hurt at that time frame, but you keep it moving, right? And for me, it was I decided that look, I could bounce around, which I did a little bit here and there, but at the time, I was married, and my wife, at the time, she was stable in her career. She had just went into a big financial career with Wells Fargo, and and it probably wasn't a good thing to be on the other side of the country. And because she couldn't leave, right? She's building a career, right?
Technology wasn't what it is now.
Yeah. So it is what it is now. So you always say, in hindsight, there's a reason for everything, and who knows? Maybe if I stuck around, I could have been more injured, and or who knows, right? You never know.
You never know. No, but it's funny. I've known some NFL guys too. Been so bitter about when they get, even if they play like 10 times more than everybody else. But it's always interesting. So you transition to your business, right? And let us know about your business now, man. Mm-hmm. I saw it online. It looks really good. Definitely going to get those cookies. Tell us about your business right now.
Yeah, so my company's called Finger Licking Dutch. I don't know if you can see my poster back here.
Nice.
But, we're Finger Licking Dutches. We sell these caramel waffle cookies. They're called stroop waffles. And so STROOPWEFELS.
All right,
so Finger Licking Dutch. And so they're just caramel waffle cookies. The best cookie eaten ever. I promise you on that.
No, I'm definitely going to let you know, and I know that the audience will let you know as well, as we'll have a link on the episodes link, and then we'll also have we'll put a link on the website, which I like to thank everybody for telling their friends and neighbors.
Yes,
on our website, it's growing exponentially, and we'll have a prominent link to Finger Licking Dutch cookies. So. What are your thoughts, right, as we finish up? 80% of NFL players end up broke. How are you able to maintain that mental toughness, come back from – and these are my words. I want to make it clear. These are my words. I'm going to own them, not John Bronson's words. But you were cut by rigid thinking, Mormon, racist, Ken Whisenhunt, right? Those are my words, not John's words. How do you have that mental strength to bounce back from that? And how has your entrepreneurial journey gone, right? That shows a high level of intelligence for you to be able to pull that off.
Yeah. Yeah, the first thing, it may sound cliche, but it's belief, right? And you have to really believe and whatever you do, and then kind of set a. I don't want to say a lot of people say set a plan, which is true, but you also have to start with some process of elimination. So we'll talk about next career for me. The process of elimination was I knew I didn't want to work for anybody.
Right.
Period. Right. That was it. Like, period.
Make more money working for yourself than anybody else. And then a guy who's intelligent as you are would be very frustrated working for something.
Yeah. And I knew that, but so that part of the process of elimination was something that I realized early on, right? So, which also means that I had to be prepared to potentially struggle at first to get things going, to learn more, to be more informative, ask more questions, get the right mentors and advisors, build this ecosystem of information and people that can help attain those goals. So to that's a big component to, especially for athletes, and I continue to preach this, is it's important to be around people who have done better than you, especially in something that you're looking to do. So for us, going into a CPG, a consumer goods company, food company, I'm not going to go ask somebody who's a mechanic food business because they're not equipped in that. They may have built a successful business, with fixing cars, but that doesn't mean that you can show me about how to build a food business. So long story short, with all of this, it's just being able to know how to ask the right questions and have enough of the right people, mentors, and advisors in place, which is a big, big undertaking, because those are the people who can lead. If they don't know the answers to your questions, they probably know somebody who does, right? So it's having more information, just information. Information is just important, in my opinion, as education. I didn't go to school for information to be able to take the next step. So that's an important part of it too. The last thing to say too is you just have to have a chest of steel and discipline like crazy, and just just like football, kind of like I don't hate to say no lose mentality, but kind of like this just try. Just different. What we're gonna figure out. I'm not here to figure out why it's not working. We need to figure out how we need to do, what adjustment needs to be made. So I think if you can take some of those nuggets, people take those nuggets and they apply that into their business or their next journey of life, you can really see a difference. At least for me and for us, I enjoy being a part of this finger licking Dutch with my girlfriend. She's from Holland, I think I mentioned earlier. And that's how I got involved with the cookie, with stroopwafels. She gave me one of our first dates.
Oh, wow.
I loved it. I became a customer at first. And I said, they don't have these in the States very a lot. And I said, so she had a lot of resources in Holland. I had them in the U.S. and we put them together and decided to start our own brand. So that's how we started.
Oh man, that's a wonderful entrepreneurial story, man.
Yeah,
that's
thanks.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And,
hey, I got one more thing for you.
Absolutely.
I didn't share this earlier. I meant to drop it in there. So I'm actually you said your dad was as a minister, right?
Right.
So my dad's also a minister. So in theory, I come from a very heavy Baptist family. So my dad's been a minister for I don't know how many years, and so so I just had to throw it out there because my parents grew up in the church, especially when I was younger for a long time. So
that's awesome, man. That's why we connect. We got that flow.
So part of the faith of
faith,
of football,
faith, family, and football to the core.
Family and football. So,
what an extraordinary career, man, John Bronson, and Yeah, faith, family, and football. You got to have that belief,
Yeah.
right? And that creates that mental strength.
Absolutely.
I'll send you a link to the blog I wrote about my dad. You'll love it. And your
Yeah,
dad
that would be great.
share with your dad.
Absolutely. And look, I have to give a lot of props to my family as well, too. You know, I come from a very athletic family. I think I was sharing. I have my youngest, my middle sister, who's probably the best athlete out of all of us. She was a two-sport scholarship athlete at Morgan State basketball and track. Then I have a younger brother who I told you played Eastern Washington, and the Seahawks. He went to Super Bowl. Then I have another younger brother who started at Temple, went to UW. So then been very, happy and blessed to be able to be in a family where we're all been sports happy. And I'm sure my parents, they appreciate it too, to be, surrounded by all their kids being in sport at some time of their life. So it's been a lot of fun, being
very blessed family.
Yeah. So
very blessed family. Yeah, and we talked about it. We'll have your brother on so he can sell some books. And get all our followers and fans that have been growing exponentially. Thank you, and we'll keep providing you with value. Any final thoughts on your extraordinary career in life so far? And you're a Curacao now, and I love Curacao. It's a great place to be.
Well, I guess I'll end there. Like I said, I'm in Curacao, and it's a great place to be. A lot of people, especially in America, don't know Curacao, but it's a great place to be. There's pandemic wise, it's no corona right now.
Right.
So, the biggest thing that I try to share with people in closing here was just to kind of, live your life to the best of your ability, to the fullest every single day. And, always try to look at things in its positive light as best as possible, because it's easy to kind of look at things, whatever it is, negatively. But if you take a situation and you go, there's another side to this, right? Whatever. Right now it's the pandemic and everybody got to be indoors for the most part. But if you look at the other side, we can connect more, right? We use Zoom. We can connect more. We can have conversations about stuff. It probably wouldn't have been as easy if everybody was on the subways and buses and planes and, et cetera. So I try to look at things in the bright light, and I encourage people to do that as well. So, yeah, thank you for having me on, man. I really enjoyed this.
All right, right on. No, I'm glad you did. And we always close with Winston Churchill. You make a living from your labor, but you end up making a life from what you give. Thank you for listening to the ESBC Podcast Network Faith Family Football Podcast.